My nickname is the streets barber, and it all started from way before I even became a barber, actually, the concept. I grew up in an amazing family. This family, when I say is amazing, I really mean it. They're full of philanthropists, and they were excelling in their careers and in their fields in ways that I just looked up to so much. Whether they were physicians, CEOs, diplomats, UN officials, the list went on, Harvard graduates. I always looked at what they were doing. However, I always neglected how they were doing it. You see, I come from a Baha'i family. And a Baha'i is someone who believes in the oneness of mankind. And the way we can really show the oneness of mankind is through service, by incorporating other communities that are different from our own as if it is our own. And so when I said I was looking at what they were doing and not how they were doing it, my family members, they lived all around the world, whether it was rural areas in West Africa, in the West Indies, Europe, Asia. I myself, I was born and raised in Japan. My family went, moved there, learned the language, learned the customs, the culture, and if you can imagine a little Persian boy running around speaking fluent Japanese, that was me. And they were just doing so well, and I always admired them. I admired them so much, to the point that I became almost insecure because I didn't feel like I was good enough, because I was putting such a high expectation to who I needed to be. Now, this is the thing. This is who I am. I'm right here. But I kept trying to compare myself to someone else. Let's just say they're over here. Okay? Where am I? I'm over there. And so when I'm constantly trying to be like someone I'm not, I began to lose myself because I went further and further away from myself. And when you go further and further away from yourself, you don't even know who you are anymore. Now, as a Baha'i, any form of substance that alters the state of mind is forbidden because you try to stay as true to your sense of self as possible. But when I started to lose myself and I had no grounding values that allowed me to see clearly, and when drugs got introduced into my life, I finally felt, oh, I'm good at something. The thing is, it was a trick. It was a toxic relationship because I would get high and felt, all right, this is good, but then I'd sober up again, and then I'd feel shame. On top of the lack of self-esteem and insecurity I already had about myself because I kept trying to be like someone I wasn't. And no matter how hard I tried to be like them, I could never do it as well as them, which meant I was a failure. So then what I would do was I'd continue to get more high. But it never lasted because then I'd sober up and feel more shame. And the cycle went on for years until I started to lose everything. I started to lose my relationships. I started to lose my physical health. And I started to really lose my mental health. It was a really, really dark period in my life. Throughout this whole time, the one thing I used to always do was cut hair for my friends and family. I just got the bug when I was a young kid. It's actually kind of funny. At 7 years old, I used my dad's razor. And being Persian from the Middle East, when you're about 6, 7 years old, you start to develop peach fuzz mustaches. And I myself, I had one. And so I grabbed my dad's razor and I had fun one night and shaved my mustache off, and I loved it. And ever since then, I used to always just tell my friends, I can do it for you, I can do it for you. And whenever my friends and family would tell me, hey, you should cut hair, this is actually something you're pretty good at, I used to feel like they were insulting me, like, is that all you guys think I'm capable of doing? You don't think I can be like, you know, the rest of the family? You don't think I can work for the UN? You don't think I can go to Harvard? You don't think I can start a company or become a doctor? Eventually, the encouragement went away because my reactions were just putting them off. Now, this really dark period in my life and starting to lose everything. I used to say unfortunately, but now I reflect and say fortunately, I checked myself into a rehab center. That was March 12, 2013. In rehab, kind of like when you go to the gym and you get a personal trainer and they teach you how to lift weights properly so you can go and lift weights on your own. It's kind of what rehab was for me. Except you replace a personal trainer with a drug and alcohol counselor, and they teach you coping skills, and they work through your problems and your traumas to hopefully when you come out, you can stay sober on your own. And one of the things that I had to address was my insecurities, my low self-esteem, my constant addiction to comparing myself to others. I still do it at times, but I have developed some coping skills that I learned in rehab. And one of the things that I knew I wanted to do in rehab was cut hair. I loved it. I accepted it. I knew this is who I want to be, and this is what I want to do. So when I came out, I go to my parents, and I love them so much. I say, guys, I really want to cut hair. Are you going to be okay with that? And my mom's response was, Nas, we don't care what you or the brothers do. So long as you do it in the spirit of service, we'll always be proud. I heard those words, but I never fully understood it. Soon after, I moved to Australia with a one-way ticket, with a dream to cut hair. However, no one was actually giving me an opportunity because I had a visa, and I had kitchen scissors and beard trimmers. So I had to get by. I worked jobs here and there, but after every shift, I would go to a barbershop and I'd watch them from afar. And I'd see what they would do, watch them observe, then go home, practice on my friends, come back to work, look at clients, check out their hair, go to a barbershop, see, is there anybody's hair that's similar to the client and what I could do there? And it just kept going on for 2 years until finally one barbershop goes, hey, come on in. We see you staring at us through the window for so long. And so I went in. And I started to make myself more comfortable. And I started to basically sweep up the hair, answer phones, wrap the cape around the client, all without being told to do this, though. Just I'm trying to explain to you guys, this is my way of kind of weaseling my way in, and it worked. One day the boss goes, hey, why don't you be our apprentice? And I was so excited. The thing is, guys, I was really not that good. Everybody else was so much better. But I was getting booked out. And I don't know how. But the whole time I was thinking to myself, listen, all right, I'm not that good at cutting hair, but I'll overcompensate with trying to connect with the person in the chair. Make them feel as if they're the most important person in my life. And sure enough, my overcompensation, I guess, started to work, right? People started to really connect with me. I started to connect with them. The thing is, with communication, you can't communicate unless you first connect. And when you make that connection, you start to bring life to the environment, to the experience, and to the client and myself. There was so much life. It started to really dawn on me. I'm like, man, I'm able to really change actually someone's attitude and mindset every 30 minutes, however many times a day. And I don't even have to go to them. They come to me. What a blessing. What an opportunity. What a gift. I used to pass this homeless guy on my way to work every day. And he used to always sit there with his hand between his legs and his head down. And I used to always give him a coffee and a muffin and tell him, I hope you have a good day. But when I started to realize I'm able to really bring life into an environment with my connection through communication, I one day asked him, is it okay if I give you a haircut? And for the first time in months, he looked at me in the eyes, he penetrated my eyes and says, brother, I would love one. So we set up shop right there on a stool Actually, it was a rock, and I used a stool. And it was amazing because people were passing by. They were in shock. People were crying. And the more I started to bond with the guy, the more life started coming into him. He started yelling at people across the road. Hey, man, you should get your haircut from the best barber in Melbourne, you know? And, hey, do I look good, honey? You know, it was really, really funny. It was actually really amazing. And I just couldn't believe what was happening. This was something completely different. Mind you, he was super Australian too. When I asked him what kind of haircut he wanted, he goes, just give me whatever, mate. Just make sure you keep me ready, yeah? I'll never forget that. Anyways, I gave him a mirror, showed him what he looked like. And you know, he just stopped. He looked at himself, and he looked at me and goes, thank you, my brother. I can't wait to hopefully see my daughter one day and show her what her dad can really look like. But then he said something that changed my life forever. He goes, and I really appreciate the fact that you made me feel like a human again. That's when it hit. Those words that my mom said, so long as you do something in the spirit of service, we'll always be proud. I served this man. Serving hair became my purpose, my drive. Cutting hair was just the avenue for it. After that, I realized the gift that I've been given. I've gone to children's hospitals, prisons, palliative cares, homeless shelters, all around the world, serving through this gift of cutting hair. You see, at like 27 years old, I started to realize the purpose of life. And I invite you guys to all reflect on these points that I'm going to now give you. The purpose of life is two parts. The first part is to fulfill, recognize your destiny. What is that, you ask? Well, we're all good at something. Or we've all been blessed with a passion, or a gift, or a talent. It's impossible for you to say that that's not true, because then you wouldn't be here in this world. Once you recognize what that gift, that talent, that passion is, the second part is to use that gift, that talent, that passion to benefiting mankind. Whether it be one person or the whole world. Because then when you start to use that talent, that gift, to benefit others, you wake up and your life has purpose. Which, if you switch those words around, is the purpose of life. It's quite simple, isn't it? Service is so important. And I, once again, like to simplify that concept a little bit more. Because service has many layers to it, and it's quite broad. But once you think of it like this, it can maybe change your perspective. It's really just to make sure that whoever you come in contact with will benefit from that exchange. So whether it's through communication, whether it's through connection, whether through a simple smile, serve mankind. And trust me, your life will have so much purpose. Thank you guys so much.